Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys Writing Workshop. I show you how I write something and then you disagree in the comments, please, on YouTube. That's how this should work, okay? How to write a news story. Actually, it's how to write and how to read a news story. So hopefully by the end of this, if you don't happen to already know, you'll know my way of writing news stories, so you can go write one, and probably things like press releases and stuff like that. And so can your characters. So if you're writing a character who needs to write a news story, this will be how you do it. And I think this is important as well. Once you know how they're written, you'll know how to read them as well. And so will your characters. So you can better tell when there's something just slightly off with a news story. And it'll help you wonder why is something slightly off. Actually, quick side story. It doesn't fit with what I want to say now because this is bad and I want to tell you good ways to write a news story, but this is key. If a news story you're reading anywhere only talks about percentages, they are lying to you without exception. It's for this reason, only percentages are inflammatory. I'm in the UK. Knife crime in the UK was up 200% last year. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, but let's say that. Just saying that and then doing a whole news story about, oh, this is terrible and things, and we must get knives off the streets, might be hiding the fact that, did I say 200%? Oh, my maths isn't good. There was one knife crime last year and there are two this year, something like that. The real figure could be very, very different for it. Percentages are fine if they're listed with the source and if they are explained like that. Otherwise, a percentage means they are out to convince you of something, and it's never something you want to be convinced of. It's never the truth. Like, it's fear-mongering for it. It's clickbait. Also, clickbait, I can save you some time here. I've forgotten the name. I thought, have a look in the description for this. I'll look at what it's called. Betteridge's Law. I don't have to put it in the description. It's called Betteridge's Law. If you read a headline anywhere that ends in a question mark, the answer is no. Is Elvis alive and working in a chip shop in Detroit? No. Somewhere in that article, probably quite far down after you've scrolled past a fair few ads on the way, it'll say no. But there you go. Anyway, how to write a proper news story. It starts with a headline. I just gave that one about Detroit that was really long. Websites these days tend to do quite long headlines, but the rule used to be, and it still kind of works, 5 to 7 words make a good headline. And you should also do it human interest. Is that a way to phrase it? I write lots of technical stuff. 58 Keys, the Wednesday edition of 58 Keys, is all for writers who, like me, use and write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. And I also happen to write quite a lot about Apple news stuff. It's kind of my field for it. So Apple releases a new iPhone. Yeah, actually, I don't know how to spin that to make that interesting, but or new iPhone brings this feature. This iPhone is ludicrously expensive. I don't know, something other than Apple releases. You're looking for like, well, oh, actually, it's Apple. There's a thing, quite a complicated story with Apple and tax and Ireland, and a headline would have been Irish government announces that it is planning how to deploy the $14 billion surplus it received under the EU. Yeah, whatever. The headline I wrote for that story was Ireland plans what to buy first with its $14 billion tax windfall. Something just readable, something human. Okay, so that's your headline for it. That Irish tax one was quite long, but it was on a website. Next, after that, there can be two different things here. Well, it's all supposed to fit this. This is known as an inverted pyramid, and I do not know why, because it's a triangle. You can divide this pyramid into paragraphs for it, and the key thing is it's probably 4 paragraphs for it. That's all you really need for a news story. That's the way I was taught anyway. The paragraphs do very specific jobs, though, starting with number 1. Paragraph number 1. The first paragraph of a news story is the news story. Everything you need to know. Somebody should be able to read that opening par, and that's it. They know what the story is. The second, that's actually really hard, and it can't be a very long paragraph either, and the sentences can't run on for 5 hours or something. So writing that first paragraph, I mean, you think Twitter, I suppose, but less toxic, more informative. Second paragraph. Some disagreement with this, but the way I was taught, second paragraph is a quote from someone. The difference is, a friend who was trained on local newspapers, she was taught that the third paragraph should be the quote, but they're wrong. It's the second paragraph. The thing with the quote is, it can be ditchwater dull. Your first paragraph, I don't know, there's been a car accident on the M4 at 7:59 on Tuesday. Your quote could be, we can confirm that there was a road accident at whatever time he just said. It doesn't matter. Absolutely repetitive, dull, worthless even, as long as it's open speech marks, there is the text, closed speech marks, said police officer, something like that. Okay. Somebody with authority for it, because them having authority means you have authority. You have spoken to the people who are actually there. You haven't just copied it off some other website, off a news feed, even though these days often you will have done. But there it is. You are standing up this is real, is what you're saying. Look, here's someone we spoke to. They know, therefore we know, therefore you know. Great. But also, because you're a writer rather than a journalist necessarily, I'm a bit of both. Anytime you can put something in quote marks, it lifts the piece. I don't know what is it about us? I mean, novels, anything. Once somebody starts talking, we are more engaged. I mean, maybe only just for a moment, but it makes a difference. So you are lifting the piece, you're changing the pacing of it, and you just generally, it's the good and the right thing to do. That seems a bit grand, but okay. Paragraph 3 is everything else that people could usefully learn about it, or that it might help them under context. That's the phrase I'm struggling for. There, it's the context paragraph, and arguably paragraph 4 is as well. Now, you've read many, many news stories that went on for a lot longer than 4 paragraphs, and I am slightly biased because I was trained at BBC CFAX, where you only had room for 4 paragraphs. This is actually a pretty rubbish example because it's the last page I ever wrote for CFAX, and it wasn't a news story. So, but that gives you a sense of the space I had to write in, and you learned to write news stories in that space. I loved learning to do that. It's very hard. And I wrote 15 or 16,000 pages in that style. So to then go onto books and scripts and things, really quite difficult. Whereas Twitter, fine. Okay, so those are your 4 paragraphs. Everything afterwards, when there is anything afterwards, it's kind of the same thing. It's more detail if people would like it. When I was there a long time ago now, BBC News Online had a habit of they would write the 4 paragraph story, and then underneath it, they would append a straight copy of the text from every previous article that was related to it. And I thought that was worthless. And I think actually Google probably objects to it now because it's, I mean, let Google object, who cares? But it will stop people finding it when the same text is in more than one place. But nonetheless, there are valid reasons to make longer news stories, I suppose. There comes a point when they're a feature, which is a totally different thing. But if you do need to write more, remember this pyramid triangle thing for it. And I love this. There's actually a historical reason for this. This style of news writing, right? I mean, I think of it as a rule, I think of it as a way to do it, but it's not like somebody just imposed it. It evolved this way over a long time. And in particular, this thing of everything at the top and tailing off at the bottom is there because of this. It used to be, back in the old days, when copy and paste, well, it wasn't copy, cut and paste was actual physical pieces of paper. The compositing room in a newspaper, God, so long ago now, they would have, news stories would be written out on actual strips of paper, and they would stick them to the shape of the front page. Okay, if the story kind of fell off the bottom of the page, as it often did, snip. The compositors had to know that they only need to just cut and fine. There is never time to go back to the editor, back to the writer, back to the city room, whatever it is, and say, can you please rewrite the final part? No, it just snip. News stories have to be able to cut from the bottom. And even though those days are obviously long gone and our websites will let you write as much or as little as you like, the rule still works, because ultimately what it means is you're telling the story now. I've been working with somebody who keeps doing a lot of the context first and then do the news story, and it's just the wrong way around. You punch in with "this is now," and then you explain the background if you need to. And I know that balance is quite hard, but that's the way you do it. I said that there are ways for you or your characters to write things or to spot when things are a little off. I think really the thing I said at the top about Betteridge's law and the percentages, those are the two key examples I know of when you can instantly spot that somebody is steering you. There's also a question of who you quote in that paragraph. And also, I made it sound like you only ever quote one person. Political stories, for example, always have at least two sides to it. I mean, you're very lucky if a story only has two sides to it. Well, actually, I'm a dramatist. You're very unlucky they've only got two sides. We want everything. We want shades of grey. But let's say there's a political story and there are two dominant parties involved. You have quotes from both. Who you put first makes a difference. That's really hard when you're trying to be a straight journalist telling the story properly. But when you're not, it's really easy. You put the one you like first for it. So there are ways to look at that, tricks for it that can be used against us and that your characters can use. But really, basically, that's it. The pyramid, the triangle style is how a news story is written. So that's how you should be writing them, how your characters should be writing them. That's it for this edition of the 58 Keys Writing Workshop. If you know different, particularly that thing of should the quote be in the second or third paragraph, tell me in the comments for it. This has to work like that. Let's have a proper discussion down there about this. I mean, we're both writers. Let's talk writing. But thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself, write more, and I'll see you soon.